An artistic principle I've always liked is juxtaposition, and I've been doing a lot of images of nature and things in nature. But what's juxtaposed to nature? Well, industrialized things. So what happens whenever I have to draw something mechanical? Well, here are a few just pieces of mechanics that I like to go over. So first off, I want to start with gears and cogs. And now really the thing with a gear or a cog is you have to think of it just as a thin disc. So it's not flat, it is going to have some thickness, but it's just going to be a thinner disc. Now, finding your spokes is just a matter of your center line, and then obviously counting off through the center how many spokes you want. Now your edge styles can vary. The three most common that I've found are the rounded rectangles, the pointed teeth, and then larger trapezoids. And on top of that, your gears and your cogs are going to change. They're going to vary in sizes, and whenever you're drawing groups of them together, you should vary their sizes for different purposes. So adding them all together is more interesting to look at, but when you do that, block them out. It's a lot easier to just map out your area with either squares, or even if you really just want to start with some cylinders, do that. Find your midlines where you're going to have pipes or rods or something going through them, so they're all going to align up and you're going to be able to vary up your shapes and make it look more interesting. Now hinges, I think, are something that are really interesting and are very key, especially if you're going to draw anything that is, a mobile item, whether it's a vehicle or whether it's like a mech or something like that. So the two most common, I think, are circular hinges, which really have ball bearings generally inside of them, and they're just going to be mostly discs on top of each other. And then you're going to have these pinned hinges. So for a single pin hinge, you're going to have that one pin where you have one prong that fits into two prongs by one pin. Now what happens if you want to have multi-direction with a pin? Well, that would be the double pin. So basically your pin is more complex, so it's essentially like a cross shape or a plus sign. And essentially that's going to allow you to have multi-directional usage of that pin. So while you'll have two pieces that have two prongs each, what they're going to do is they're going to be in opposite directions so they can interlock with each other, but making sure that there's a wide enough gap so that there's clearance as these things rotate. So it'll allow you to have multi-directional rotation. So moving on to hydraulics and hoses. So hydraulic presses are really awesome because, again, these are more cylinders, which is really just a lot of this mechanic. So hydraulic is going to use liquid to push out a arm that's going to allow something to extend. So what's really good to remember is the mechanics that whenever it's extended, it's going to be full of liquid, and whenever the liquid is pulled out of the cylinder, it's going to be completely compressed. So the hoses are the things you need to remember with those, because obviously if there's liquid going into the cylinder, it has to attach somewhere. So remember the hoses, and remember to add details to the hose connection, that they're not just sitting there or slapped on, but there looks like there's a feasible connection. And those hoses should be firm, not loose. Loose would make them look too much like rope or too much like cables or wires. Now, there are two different, I think, distinct types of hard hoses that you can use, and that's like more the rubber PVC hose, which you can put a little metal mesh on the very tip of it to protect it from bending, and then you can have the segmented hose. Now, wires are really not anything too crazy or unique. You can throw stray wires in all over the place, but something that I like to do with my mechanics is I like to wrap up the wires, because this just looks like, one, a little more clean, and then two, it adds just some interesting detail. So thanks for watching my little tidbits on mechanics. Head over to my school and get more art hacks like this, and remember to get to sketching. Thanks everybody.